Hello, ladies and gentlemen of District 31 in Anchorage, Alaska. My name is Dan DiNardo. I'm standing for election to the House District 31 House of Representatives seat in the legislature in 2008. I've started delving into more detail in this financial crisis that is organized and has been organized for over 20 years. The Bank of International Settlements, particularly about 6 years ago, had decreed that within those 6 years, definitely commencing in 2007, but really bringing on full force in 2008, there would be a collapse of the capitalistic communistic system that they have set up. And what they were going to do is they were going to have a serious and a substantial reduction in the amount of capital outstanding. Now imagine the tidal action that you see. When the tides come in, all boats are raised. When the tide goes out, all boats go down. And that's exactly what's happening here. The amount of credit, internationally speaking, is being decreased substantially, causing a tremendous fall in property values, a tremendous fall in all equitable markets, equity markets. It's equitable markets from a legal point of view, but also commodity markets, for the intent of wiping out all of their obligations to you. See, with your 401ks and IRA plans and your increased property values, etc., they have an obligation to make good on that increase in value. But they can't, because there's nothing to pay you that represents that value, because they deal in what's called, equitable bills of exchange. Equitable bills of exchange are not backed by anything but a promise of further destruction and the globalization of world communism to take over all forms of governments and all nations. You typically hear the word globalism. Well, if you study Lenin and Marx, globalism, political correctness, negotiable bills of exchange, corporationism, that's all communistic. That's the foundation. You never find those words in the Constitution or Declaration of Independence. That shows you the uniqueness of what our forefathers achieved and what motivated them in 1776 and 1789. The reason you don't know this is because you never studied it. You've never taken the time. Your universities and your lower grade schools never teach you. People like Sarah Palin, who sit up there with her big act going on, her Hollywoodish type of display that you're so fascinated with, she doesn't know any of this, and she's not teaching you this. Her attorney general, the so-called history teacher, he doesn't know this. Your local bar association doesn't know it. Your bankers, your judges, your ministers, they don't know this stuff. But what they're doing is inviting you into self-destruction. This is just a beginning. You're going to face 4 to 5 to 6 years of this. You're going to be totally and completely destroyed. You're going to be on hands and knees begging them to let you off the hook, that you'll give them everything they want, particularly absolute power, and the final overthrow of the principles of the common law. Now, what do you do about that? Well, there's only one thing you can do about it, and it's called revolution. Revolution is an inalienable right. And what I'm going to show you is a beginning, because with real money in circulation that represents the titles and actually the loyal rights and property, we can destroy their stranglehold. We can take off and join a future century of peace and prosperity and justice. But without taking that action, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to become subservient more and more to the propaganda that you see on your TVs and hear on your radios and read in your newspapers, because you've been institutionalized and brainwashed. Let me show you this. These are United States notes, and you can see that they have a red seal. This was money that was put into circulation by Abraham Lincoln, first of all, and then by John F. Kennedy, based upon the principles of the common law and the laws of property established through the very brilliant writings of Adams and Jefferson and some very brilliant men before them. And you can see that this red seal represents one thing, that this is not loaned into circulation to a communist-controlled, attorney-dominated and designed banking structure for perpetual annuity debt. In other words, this is bonded servitude under Federal Reserve notes. This is money of account. And this money of account means one thing: freedom and justice for all men, where you have the full benefit of your work. Make sure I get a picture of these clearly. Your work and your prosperity where government doesn't tax. These are not taxable. The wages earned by this, the property and the creativity that are created and paid for in U.S. notes, the red seal, this is the only money of account that's ever really existed in the United States. Gold and silver certificates never were because there were no limitations on the expansion of the silver and gold certificates. As proven because during the 19th century, the entire financial structure of the United States was destroyed, except for the brilliance of Abraham Lincoln in putting these into circulation. These are paid directly into circulation by the people, of the people, for the people. There is no inflation, there's no interest, there's no debt, there's no recession. There's nothing but total and complete prosperity. There's no national debt. There's no crime. Now you begin to understand why they had to murder Kennedy and Lincoln, because they didn't want this concept out here, and you can thank your local bar association, the communist card-carrying members of the bar association. They're the ones who perpetrate these crimes. Why do you think the God-man himself, Jesus Christ, condemned them to eternal damnation? Why do you still allow them to control your court systems? Why do you allow them to create corporations? Do you know a corporation has to be represented in a court by an attorney and only by an attorney? And yet all of you work for corporations, you worship at corporations, everything you buy comes from a corporation. You have been communized. You want to talk about 666? You've already joined it, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to have it emblazoned on your forehead or your hand. You've already voluntarily joined. And you worship at the corporate altar every day, every moment of your existence. You must rise up and you must have a common law revolution to reestablish allodial rights in law, allodial rights to money of account that pays you for your hard-earned labor, that you have been given that duty and obligation by Almighty God Himself. But you ignore that. You listen to the Jerry Prevos and the rest of these hacks on TV. Start listening to the truth. Start listening to yourself and read the book of Revelation and Holy Writ yourself. I'm going to end here, but stay tuned in because I'm going to give you some more information. Stay tuned to YouTube.